Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the January 29th, 2020 Pittsburgh Board of Education and Pittsburgh Mount Oliver Intermediate Unit Legislative Meeting. Before we begin this evening, I'd like to ask everyone to please turn off all cell phones or to please put them on vibrate. Would everyone please rise to salute the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I think we have Mrs. Williams that has a presentation this evening.
Thank you, Mrs. Wilson. January is School Director Recognition Month, and along the state of Pennsylvania, along with Pennsylvania School Boards Association, we would like to take the time to recognize 9 volunteers for their outstanding service to the children and citizens of this great school district. To say thanks tonight, each board member will receive a copy of the book, a New York Times bestseller, Switch, How to Change Things When Change is Hard, by Chip and Dan Heath. This book explains how psychologists have discovered that our minds are ruled by 2 different systems, the rational mind and the emotional mind, and they compete with each other. The rational mind wants to change something while the emotional mind loves the comfort of the existing routine. This tension can doom a change effort, but it is overcome. Change can come quickly. We encourage you as board members to dive into this text as we work together to imagine PPS. Little ones, as you can see out in front of your desk, little ones from early childhood have also gifted you with a mug and a thank you card from each of your respective districts. There's also a QRC, a code that you scan. You can find more information about not only the early childhood centers in your district, but early childhood as a whole program. At this time, I'm going to ask that as I call your name, the board member comes up to receive their official certificate to commemorate you, and then also if you guys can look at the token of appreciation that's sitting in front of you. Without further ado, please let's welcome Board President representing District 1, Ms. Sylvia Wilson. Representing District 8, First Vice President, Mr. Kevin Carter. Representing District 5, Second Vice President, Mrs. Terry Kennedy. Representing District 2, Ms. Devin Talaferro. Representing District 3, Mr. Salo Dean. Representing District 4, Mrs. Pam Harbin. Representing District 6, Mr. Bill Gallagher. She's on the phone and here with us in spirit, representing District 7, Ms. Cindy Falls. Last but certainly not least, representing District 9, Ms. Veronica Edwards. We appreciate all that you do for the citizens and students of this school district and the city of Pittsburgh. Thank you, and this concludes tonight's special presentation.
Thank you, Mrs. Williams. It's very appreciative to have someone like this, just to give us some thanks, because school board members do put in a lot of hours beyond the televised meetings that many of you will watch and see or come and listen to. So it is nice to have someone to say thanks for the time that's spent on behalf of all the children and the families in the city of Pittsburgh. And as may have been noted, Ms. Falls and I believe Dr. Hamlet are both on the phone with us this evening. We will begin first this evening with the Pittsburgh Mount Oliver Intermediate Unit. Mr. Weiss, can we please have a roll call?
Mr. Carter?
Here.
Ms. Edwards?
Here.
Ms. Falls? Mr. Gallagher?
Here.
Mrs. Harbin?
Here.
Mrs. Kennedy?
Present.
Ms. Talaferro?
Here.
Mr. Udine? Here. Ms. Wilson?
Here.
All members present.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss. Okay, would the board members please turn to the minutes from last month? And at this time, we'd like to know if any of you have any corrections, additions, or deletions to the minutes. Okay, hearing none, I'd like to have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the December 18th, 2019 legislative meeting for the Pittsburgh Mount Oliver Intermediate Unit.
So moved. Second.
Okay, that was Ms. Kennedy and Ms. Edwards. All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? All right, the minutes stand approved. The committee report on education that includes agenda items 21.01 and 21.02 is before you. Are there any questions or comments that were not answered at agenda review? All right, if there are no further questions or comments, do we have a motion and a second for a roll call vote?
So moved.
Mrs. Kennedy and Ms. Falls. Mr. Weiss, may we please have a roll call vote?
Mr. Carter?
Yes.
Ms. Edwards?
Yes.
Ms. Falls? Yes. Mr. Gallagher?
Yes.
Ms. Harbin?
Yes.
Mrs. Kennedy? Yes. Ms. Talaferro?
Yes.
Mr. Udine?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
The item is approved unanimously.
All right, thank you, Mr. Weiss. The committee report on business finance that includes agenda item 25.01 is before you. Are there any questions or comments that were not answered at agenda review? All right, hearing none, do we have a motion and a second for a roll call vote?
So moved.
Ms. Edwards
Second.
and Ms. Kennedy. Mr. Weiss, may we please have a roll call vote?
Mr. Carter?
Yes.
Ms. Edwards?
Yes.
Ms. Falls? Yes. Mr. Gallagher?
Yes.
Mrs. Harbin?
Yes.
Mrs. Kennedy?
Yes.
Ms. Talaferro?
Yes.
Mr. Udine?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
The item is approved.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss. Item 27.01 is the Pittsburgh Mount Oliver Intermediate Unit Personnel Report. Are there any questions or comments on this report? All right, hearing none, do we have a motion and second for a roll call vote? So moved. Mr. Carter.
Second.
Ms. Talaferro. Mr. Weiss, can we have a roll call vote?
Mr. Carter?
Yes.
Ms. Edwards?
Yes.
Ms. Falls?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher?
Yes.
Ms. Harbin?
Yes.
Ms. Kennedy?
Yes.
Ms. Talaferro?
Yes.
Mr. Udine?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Item is approved.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss. Item 28.01 is the Pittsburgh Mount Oliver Intermediate Unit Financial Travel Report for December 2019. Are there any questions or comments on this report? All right, hearing none, I'd like to have a motion second to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Mrs. Kennedy and Mrs. Edwards. All those in favor, please say aye. Any noes? All in favor, the meeting is adjourned. Okay, and thank you, Ms. Barron. All right, I'd like to call the January 29, 2020 meeting of the Pittsburgh Public Schools to order. Mr. Weiss, can we please have a roll call?
Mr. Carter?
Here.
Ms. Edwards?
Here.
Ms. Falls? Ms. Falls?
Present.
Ms. Harbin?
Here.
Ms. Kennedy?
Present.
Ms. Talafaro?
Here.
Mr. Udine? Here. Ms. Wilson?
Here.
All present.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Mr. Gallagher.
Here.
Pardon me.
All right, at this time, I'd like to ask Mr. Bill Gallagher to share our core beliefs and commitments.
Our core beliefs and commitments. We will educate all children to their highest level of academic achievement. We will provide a safe and orderly environment for all students and employees. We will provide efficient and effective support for all students, families, teachers, and administrators. We will distribute resources in an efficient and equitable manner to address the needs of all students to the maximum extent feasible. We will improve public confidence and encourage strong parent community engagement in the district.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gallagher. Okay, at this time, would the board members please turn to the minutes? Tonight, we'll be approving the minutes for the December 2nd, 2019 board reorganization meeting, the December 18, 2019 legislative session, and the December 27th, 2019 continued legislative session. Are there any corrections, additions, or deletions? All right, hearing none, I'd like to have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of those three meetings.
So moved.
Ms. Harbin?
Second.
Ms. Talafaro? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, that motion has carried. All right, at this time, I'd like to read the executive session statement. In addition to executive sessions announced at the legislative meeting of December 18, 2019, the board met in executive sessions on January 22nd, 2020, and immediately before this legislative meeting to discuss various personnel matters that may include, but are not limited to, administrative vacancies and positions open and closed. The board does not vote at executive sessions. The committee report on education is before you as submitted by Sylvia Wilson, the chairperson, and my committee. The report includes agenda items 5.01 through 8.15. If you would please turn to agenda item 8.15, I'd like to give you the student suspension, transfer, and expulsion numbers for this month. 40 students were suspended for 4 to 10 days. 12 students were expelled out of school for 11 days or more. There were no items pulled for further discussion at agenda review. Are there any questions or comments on the committee report on education at this time that were not answered at agenda review? All right, hearing none. Could I please have a motion? Did I hear something? So, Ms. Harbin. 5.01 through 8.15.
Yeah, I would just like to say that on our calendar, we're voting on the calendar for next year, and there was somebody who came to speak at the public hearing to talk about the addition of a Muslim holiday, and it's Eid, and I think that that's something that we should look towards next year, is including that holiday on our calendar. I know it was late for this year, but I just wanted to say that.
I'm not sure if it has been printed yet. Is that something, can I ask someone from the state staff if that's something that could be included?
I think the speaker, excuse me, Erica Jones, Chief of Staff, I think the speaker was actually asking for it to be time off, but we definitely do print that already on the calendar. So it's printed recognized. I think they're trying to ask for time off.
Yeah, have a day of vacation for that
Okay,
day.
yes, that could not be discussed right now, but having it marked on the calendar can be. So that will be something for further discussion later. Mrs. Kennedy.
What I would make a suggestion is, especially since it was a late comment, and I actually had told Dr. Hamlet I'm in favor of it, but of course, if we have another day off in May, we have to change something else in the calendar. So what I would recommend is approving the calendar as it exists tonight, but we can always amend the calendar. And, you know, once the academic team goes back and figures out how best to have another day off in May and where to make sure we have the proper number of days with snow days built in so we meet the regulations from state code, you know, because we can't just say now, yeah, let's have that day off, because we have to find another day now to add to the calendar, is my belief. So I would recommend we pass the calendar as it exists, but give a strong recommendation to administration to come back with an amendment to it, because we're in plenty of time to print the calendars that will go out or be available for next school year. So that's just a recommendation.
Mr. Joseph.
Yes, you understand, we definitely will have to do some work. And as I mentioned to Ms. Harden before, we will have to do work, the team, to see if we meet the requirements for the number of days for our students. So yes, we can do the work, and we'll make it a priority to see if that can happen or not.
Thank you, Dr. Hamlet. Mr. Joseph, you don't have anything else to say? All right, and also just to make note that that holiday is one of those floating holidays because it can occur at any time during the year. This year would be next year's in May. This year it's in May, but it also could be in September. It could be in December. It is one of those type of holidays.
And for this calendar year, it actually is on a weekend, so it doesn't impact us this year, but for next year.
It would be. Okay, thank you. Okay, I think Ms. Falls has something.
Please. Thank you, Ms. Wilson. I just want to make a comment about 8.08 with the Alcazan and the participation through partnerships and internships and exposing the kids to the CTE programs that Alcazan is so willing to participate and expose our students to, because I think this is in direct alignment with the new idea of Imagine, PPS. And I think this is a strong, in addition to our other partners, having it here on the table now and, showing it to the public that we are committed to exposing our kids to as many job opportunities, shadowing, internships as possible. And I would like to thank Alcazan for reaching out and wanting to expose our kids and be a partner. Thank you, Ms. Wilson.
Thank you, Ms. Falls, and that's kind of nice of you to say that, and I didn't have to say it, because I'm really appreciative that Alcazan has become more involved in the Pittsburgh Public Schools. They're very involved in a lot of the school districts around Allegheny County and throughout their 83 municipalities they cover, but we've had little participation with Pittsburgh Public Schools, and that has been increasing quite a bit in the last year and a half, and this is only going to make things go further. So I too, am very appreciative of our partnership with them. Okay, at this time, I'd like to have a motion and a second to approve the education. Oh, okay, Mr. Dean.
Just a comment on the capital improvement contracts. In this group of resolutions, there are almost 30 different construction contracts. Is that?
That's not part of education.
Are you still on education?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Okay, I'm still waiting for that motion and that second.
So moved.
Okay, Mr. Carter and Mrs. Kennedy. Mr. Weiss, could we have the roll call on the committee report on education?
Mr. Carter,
Yes.
Ms. Edwards,
Yes.
Ms. Falls,
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher,
Yes.
Ms. Harbin,
Yes.
Mrs. Kennedy,
Yes.
Ms. Talaferro,
Yes.
Mr. Dean,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson.
Yes.
Items approved.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss. We're going to now move on to the committee report on business and finance. That's before you. as submitted by Mr. Kevin Carter, chairperson in his committee. The report includes agenda items 10.01 through 12.04. There were no items pulled for further discussion at agenda review. At this time, we could take questions or comments, and I think, Mr. Udine, this is your time.
Thank you. There are a number of construction contracts included here. When we look at the MBE, WBE participation in these contracts, there are, it appears, a great opportunity for MBE, WBE participation far beyond what's included here. I just want to make that note and bring it to the board's attention, the urgent need for us to review our MBE, WBE policy and practice and take steps to strengthen it and amend it so that more legitimate minority and women-owned businesses participate in the business of the school district contracts.
Thank you, Mr. Udine. Are there any other questions or comments? Ms. Harbin?
I have to abstain on item 10.03. My brother works for Bloom Board, and I also want to put on the record that Bloom Board contract came before Dr. Hamlet because there was lots of misinformation in the media, and I know for sure that it came before Dr. Hamlet because my brother works there.
Thank you, Ms. Harbin.
Also, I want to bring up 10.31, the new transportation, pupil transportation contract. As I talked about in agenda review, I think planning and preparation are going to be the key to making this successful, and communication with families has to be like on point. And 12.04, the LERTA. So I didn't bring this up at the agenda review because we just got it that day and it took a while for me to review it. I'm glad that the proposal was redone. It is in line with the inclusionary zoning in Lawrenceville, and that is, inclusionary zoning will give affordable housing units, and I think that is really important. And also there were, and the inclusionary zoning right now is just Lawrenceville, and it should be throughout the city, so I would like to support Alerta that is actually following the inclusionary zoning ordinance and get other developers to say that they are going to do the same. I have to say that I am disappointed in the MBE, WBE, and union participation in this LERTA, and I know this is something that we as a board are going to be talking about our own policies around that, but 18% MBE, 7% WBE, and 15% union participation seems, well, the union participation seems very, very low to me. I know there are developers that have 100% union contracts, and I would hope that we would, in, you know, Pittsburgh is a union town, but also, you know, we're hoping that our students are going to take advantage of our career technical education programs and get into unions, and if the developers are not using union contractors, that doesn't make sense to me. The parking spaces, I've been told from somebody in the community, so the one thing that I want everybody to realize is that at the end of the LERTA process, where we get to make an approval for LERTA, like there's been 2 years of conversations that have gone on, and I was told that the developer, Millhouse, had originally offered 50 spaces, and now we're down to 35. And I asked how many employees there are at Arsenal. There's 49 employees at Arsenal with 8 spots. So that leaves us with needing 41. And if we get 35, we need 6 more. So I know there's going to be parking on the street, but that's like not a guaranteed thing for teachers and staff. So I don't want to stop Alerta for something like this, but I do think that we should ask for those 6 spots.
I just want to note that they have included 40, I do believe, not, public. And our teachers could use those in the morning, and I do believe that their availability of those spots would be very good in the morning, because the public would not start to come down to Lawrenceville to use the businesses until later on in the morning after school had started. We are also continue to work with the church. Actually got back to me as well, so we continue to work on other avenues for parking as well in Arsenal.
Yeah, I think staff parking is kind of an important thing. We're talking about giving our tax dollars to a developer, and we're diverting tax money that could be in our coffers. And so these are things that I think are important in the conversations when it comes to us approving this LRTA. The other thing that was talked about, and I'm trying to figure this out, but the intersection at 39th and Butler is a high traffic area. The first Arsenal project has increased people driving in that area, and now this next project will also increase the driving in that area. I was told that the 64 bus route ends there. So our partner Allegheny County, there's a lot of traffic in that area, and then there's no city crossing guard. So the community had asked for a traffic signal at that intersection at 39th and Butler, and I was told that that was actually part of the condition of their zoning for the first phase of this project. So again, I don't want to hold up the LRTA, but these are things that I think for somehow this process of talking about this LRTA got a little sideways because it came out during the budget period and we didn't spend as much time talking about it, I don't think. But these are things that I wish I would have known about before, but I didn't, and now I know, and I'm concerned that we're, again, building more in an area where we already have high traffic concerns, and there's, kids crossing that big street, there are staff crossing that big street. So how do we work on getting a traffic light? That's not the purview of the school district, but we're giving our money away.
So I was exactly going to say that the zoning components aren't part of the approval process for the LRTA, and Ms. Wilson, we do have representatives from Millhouse here, so if you would like them to come to the table to answer questions, I know that we typically don't have that at legislative meetings, but that's an option because they would be better suited to answer those questions than I would.
I think we could make an exception. I do know that Butler Street is extremely high traffic anyway. And I do understand your concern, Ms. Harbin, about having a track, but there's a traffic light down 2 blocks. You have a traffic light at 40th Street. That's only 1 block, and I'm wondering the feasibility of putting another traffic light there rather than having some other kind of a system. But you want to give some thoughts, share your thoughts on that? You can.
May I add something before they add? When the LRTA was presented last fall to us, one of the questions I asked on behalf of the district was, could we be willing to be able to work out a lease of additional spaces? Because right now the district leases spaces for the Arsenal staff at a place that's going to disappear. It's on a, I don't know if it's the same lot. I have no idea where we currently lease, but it's a property that's been sold. And so we're kind of on a month-to-month, and once that property starts getting developed, we have no place that the teachers have guaranteed parking. So the fact that Millhouse came to the table willing to provide free parking, that's going to save us money right there. And the fact that when we had the LRTA presentation last fall, and I asked, could we have the district negotiate a lease for additional spaces, and they said yes, I was very comfortable with that. And I realized, like you said, it was in the midst of the budget stuff. But I just wanted to put that out there, and I left those negotiations back with the operations to deal with. But that was something that I thought that was very generous. Yeah. So thank you. Sorry.
It's okay. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Jake Dietrich, Vice President of Development for Millhouse, and I'll try to answer the questions that have been brought up, maybe not in the same order that they were asked, but I'll try to get to everything. Working backwards on the traffic signal, so we hired a transportation consultant to do research on this issue. Their research did not actually warrant a traffic signal due to traffic standards, and so we understand that we cannot simply add a traffic signal just because we want to. It has to meet certain threshold requirements. However, we are planning to add pedestrian signalization improvements so that there's blinking signals for when students, for example, would be crossing the street. As it relates to parking, as folks have indicated, there are 40 public parking spaces, which I would definitely agree would be very well empty in the morning hours when teachers would arrive. And we've also added 35 spaces, which is up 5 from last time. I don't know that we can solve every issue with our project, but we are happy to be able to kind of fill a major chunk of the need for Arsenal schools. And then as it relates to union and MBE, or just generally inclusion, having not understood what this body was looking for when we started this process, I'm happy that we have hopefully responded to some degree to add best efforts requirements on ourselves to help respond to your all's concerns. Again, having not known that that was a priority for you all, maybe when we started this, it was hard for us to know exactly where this lands, and I think now we've got a better understanding of that. And I'm happy to answer any additional questions folks have.
Thank you. Mr. Carter.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. I wasn't going to comment on this. I was just going to vote, but I find it quite sad and pathetic that we would sit here at this table and, you know, for 40 parking spaces, give up what 4 years we have kind of held developers accountable to raising the bar and doing what's right on behalf of Pittsburgh. I think that it's nice that they have put in there that they have an aspirational goal of 25% for DBE businesses or EBE businesses or MBE businesses, but I don't think that that's quite enough just to say that it's aspirational and put it in there. It doesn't seem that they're very committed to it beyond the first draft of the presentation that we got done. I also find it to be disturbing that we would settle with them only using 15% union labor in a city that is heavily union supported, that we push our own projects to do more than that as it relates to, you know, support on things that we do internally. Yeah, 40 parking spaces is nice, but it's not enough for me to sacrifice, you know, 4 years of standard of practice that we've had in pushing to make sure that these deals are fully equitable. And being in an inclusion zone, but being quite exclusionary is not good enough for me. I also think that the idea that this becomes something that we need or something that we have to do as a result of just having an application done, I don't like that argument either. I think that there are better ways that this can get done. I think that there are more things that they could do. I don't think that offering just 10% of affordable housing in this is adequate. And so I think I will stick by my no vote on this particular LRTA. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Teleferro, Mr. Udine, and then Mrs. Kennedy.
Thank you. Just a couple thoughts, because I have received a number of calls from both Councilwoman Deb Gross as well as an email from Dave Brangen from Lawrenceville United, who have been working on this project for quite some time and have been instrumental in using this opportunity in Lawrenceville as an opportunity to introduce inclusionary zoning, which has been, again, worked on for quite some time and has had some diligent conversation and accountability. And I think that Millhouse has done, while not perfect, maybe in our minds of what we might want to see or the expectation, I think it is a starting point. It's a strong policy that we can build off and grow. And I hate to, use maybe past negative experiences with projects who don't come to the table with anything at all that we're looking for, to kind of throw this out the window. As such, I think one of the things that was brought to me by Councilwoman Gross was a number of emails that she received specifically from Arsenal teachers pleading about parking and different things that have happened years ago and have started to resurface again. And so while 35 designated spots for Arsenal teachers may not be as desirable or may seem like not a huge win, it is beneficial. And I think that, again, you know, it sounds to me that other options are being sought after because parking is not great in that space. I also look at the other assets listed to the community in general, and I think while we can only be concerned about issues of the school district, I think that there are great assets to the community as well in Lawrenceville, though Lawrenceville is changing. So this is something that I do want to fully support today, while I know that we might not always agree and that there might be future LRTAs from larger development companies that don't deserve, you know, our tax breaks or whatever we're going, you know, whatever they're asking of us. I think that this is a good starting point, and I hope that in the future, for those representing Millhouse, that you hear the strong concerns, especially about the percentage of union inclusion, because this is a union city, and this is something that we fight for and advocate for often. And so I want to make sure that in the future, as you know, future projects, that's something that you do consider as a strong concern. So thank you.
I just want to add my voice in support of the LRTA. I think that they have been very responsive to the concerns that have been raised by the community, as well as by members of this board. There are many issues that could come forward, and when they have, I think the developers have been responsive. They are certainly not as thorough and complete as we would like to see them, but at this last hour, it is, I would hope that we would pass this legislation and agree to use the lessons that we've learned from this one in future discussions, but not penalize them because we waited late to raise these issues. I think it should be approved.
First, I'm going to thank Ms. Talaferro for pointing out what the input is on the folks who can speak on behalf of the community, because I think that's a very valuable piece of data for all of us when we look at LRTAs, is what does the community want? It's easy for us to sit here, but if we don't live in the community, we don't know what the community wants. So I want to thank you for providing us that valuable information. I would like to say, yeah, there are things that we all like and stuff, but if it's not in the policy, we cannot, in my opinion, make a decision based on criteria not in the policy. And as my board colleagues know, that we will be reviewing this policy this year, and we will be making changes. But as the policy exists today, and the way the LRTA that we have to vote on today, we have to go by the current policy, not by criteria that we like. I mean, I have criteria that I like. I like everything to be 100% accessible. You know, and that's a great wish, but it's not in the policy, so I can't decline to vote for it because it's not 100% accessible in each unit. You know, you can convert the units, but that's not the same. But, you know, again, that's not a valid reason for me to not approve it. I am voting for this. I think it is, they have been responsive. I agree, I would have liked to have seen more union labor, but on the other side, I don't know what their negotiations have been with their investors. What have their investors asked of them? I don't know what their negotiations are, what their budget is to pay. You know, yes, union labor is very desirable, but maybe in having to give up some other stuff, maybe their budget for salaries went down a little bit. I don't know. I would hope that's not the case because I also believe in living wages. But without knowing the full story from their side And maybe at some point we can sit down and learn it, but today we have to look at the facts on the table. And we have to look at the policy, and my read of the policy and my read of what they presented is they meet the criteria of the policies that exist today, and we should vote to support it. And I'm also thankful that they're helping us solve our specific problem with parking for Arsenal staff, because the lot that we currently lease could go away from us anytime, and then we'll have a big problem. We want our teachers and other staff members to be able to park reasonably close to the school, and this is very close. And I'm in Lawrenceville every other week for work, and as I'm coming over the 40th Street Bridge, I can look right and see the current buildings, and I'm making a left on the Foster, so I'm not going the other direction, but at least it's a nice addition to the skyline from an aesthetic point of view as you're coming over that bridge. Just my opinion, but thank you. Thank you, Ms. Wilson.
Thank you all. Of course, I too would like to see more union labor, but on the other hand, we're bringing some property back onto the tax roll, which is very important for the city. Parking's always been bad in Lawrenceville, and it's horrible around Arsenal. It's always been. So not every school has the area around to park, so any additional spaces obviously will be helpful. It may not ever be 100%, but at least it'll be more than what they have now. Okay, I think we have come to the end of these questions and comments for this particular area. So I think, oh, Mr. Gallagher, you sneaking your hand up on me? Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. The non-union workers, will they be paid prevailing wage?
I can't answer that question. I would have to ask my contractor about what their plans are.
Thank you. Can I go to item 10.31, TransFinder Corporation? And just the reason, we've talked about this, and I know the board, we've asked for a transportation report, and I think there's been, one ongoing. To tie in with this, are we going to receive a transportation report in the near future?
Pam Capretta, a transportation report from whom? I misheard you.
The study, transportation study. Yes.
Yes, actually, they were here yesterday and today, and they are drafting a report, and the board will receive that report.
Thank you.
Okay, looking around, I don't see any more. Oh, hands, okay. All right, could I have a motion and a second to approve this portion of the committee report to the
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I think that was Mrs. Kennedy and Mr. Udine, I think. Am I correct? Yes. And Ms. Telefair was a third. Mr. Weiss, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Carter.
Yes on the report as a whole, no on item 12.04.
Ms. Edwards?
Yes.
Ms. Falls?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher? Yes. Ms. Harvin?
Yes on the report as a whole, abstain on item 10.03.
Mrs. Kennedy?
Yes.
Ms. Talaferro?
Yes.
Mr. Udine?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Report's approved.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss. We're now going to move to the Human Resources Report, item 13.01, that includes addendums A, B, and C submitted by Mr. Bill Gallagher, chairperson, and his committee.
Point of order, information.
Yes, Mr. Carter.
Can we vote on the two contracts separately? Because we've always voted on contracts for senior employees as individual contracts. Is it? Well, okay. Well, we'll just keep it that way.
Okay, any other questions or comments on this report? Ms. Kennedy?
I just need to say I'm going to be abstaining on, in the main report on page 6, section C, item 9, because it's my daughter.
Yes, Ms. Falls.
Thank you. May I speak?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to, in 1301, H retirement, make a comment on two people. who I've had the pleasure of working with. Patricia Berry, who was a teacher at Roosevelt. I worked with her both while I was teaching and worked as a community liaison between the schools, and also she worked as space coordinator and an excellent teacher and really, really dedicated to the school, to the children, to the district. So I wish her well on her retirement. And 7, Gina Reichert, who is principal presently at the Gifted Center. I worked with Mrs. Reichert both as a teacher at Pittsburgh Carrick High School, as my vice principal, and of course in her administrative position over at Southbrook, which I worked with too as a liaison as a teacher. So I wish her, she's dedicated. She has devoted a lot of time and energy to, no matter where she was and what her position was, she gave it her all. And I really do wish Mrs. Reichert the best in the future. Thank you, Ms. Wilson.
Thank you, Ms. Falls. Ms. Harbin?
Yeah, I want to also, there's a principal retiring in one of the schools I represent, Mrs. Walker at Linden. I'm sure the community is going to be very, very upset. And I guess I'm breaking the news to them now. And I wish her well, and I'm glad that she did it in time so that we can find another great principal for Linden, and there'll be time for the families and staff to have input in that process to get another great principal.
Yes, Ms. Walker is one of the good ones, and she didn't want people to know yet, but because HR had to put it in the minutes, everybody's going to find out. We can also at this time just thank all of those who are retiring for all that they've done for the students in the city of Pittsburgh, for our schools. Everybody puts in a lot of hard work, and it should all be acknowledged for all of them. Mrs. Kennedy.
Thanks. I would be remiss if I didn't mention a retirement. I wasn't even thinking about it when I said my abstention. Renee Polanco, affectionately known as Miss M, retired effective at the end of December. And it says salary adjunct teacher, but what people can't tell by that is she was actually the chair of the dance department. So given my daughter was a dancer at Kappa, I got to know her, as a parent volunteer, as PTSA member, PTSA president. And Ms. Polanco put a lot of work into making sure everything looks simple. You can't, anybody who's involved in the performing arts know it's never simple. But by the time those students were on stage, Ms. Polanco and the rest of the teachers had them so well rehearsed, you wouldn't know. You would think, oh, it was really easy. And they always put on nice shows. And it isn't just the dance department that puts on nice shows, but obviously I have a relationship, or I had one as a parent of one of her students. So I'd like to point out that she is it's a loss, and especially since there's another dance teacher retiring as well this year. There are also another person who's been there for years are losing 2 people with a ton of experience. So I wish Ms. Polanco luck, and I will wait to mention the other teacher's name when we see it come through. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Edwards?
And I'm just going to piggyback on the Gina Reichert retiring. She certainly has been a loyal and dedicated employee of the school district of Pittsburgh, and she has ran an excellent Gifted Center program. I visit, I walk through, and of course I talk to everybody as usual, but she is doing a great job and she will be missed. But congratulations to her, and I wish her well. Thank you.
Ms. Teleferro.
Okay, since everyone else is sharing great things about the people who are either leaving or not leaving, I think it's great to acknowledge the sunset of someone's career, and I can't wait to be able to retire someday and never have to work again. But I want to lift up Alexa Tokarski-Jones as being transitioning into principal of Carmel. I had the pleasure of working with Alexa at Brashear during my time working through an outside agency, and Alexa is a tremendous asset, not only to the district, but to this school at Carmel. So I'm excited to see what she will be able to do. I think leadership is something that's really important to me, and when we have quality building leaders, we have quality schools, and so I'm really excited to see the things that she will do. Although Carmel is not one of my schools, hopefully I get to visit to see what she has done to make our students have a better educational experience.
Thank you. All right, I think there's no more questions or comments, so can I have a motion and a second for a roll call vote on the Human Resources Report that includes addendums A, B, and C?
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Kennedy and Mrs. Edwards. Mr. Weiss, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Carter?
Yes on the report as a whole, no on addendum C, and yes, that's it. Thank you.
Addendum C? Yes. Okay. Ms. Edwards?
Yes.
Ms. Falls?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher? Yes. Mrs. Harbin?
Yes.
Mrs. Kennedy?
Yes on the report as a whole. I abstain on the main report on page 6, section C, item 9.
Ms. Talafaro?
Yes.
Mr. Dean?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Report's approved.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss. Because of the year-end procedures, we do not receive financial or controller reports in January or February. The board will receive reports for December, January, and February at the March 25th, 2020 legislative session. We will now move to item 16.03, the EBE report for the month of January. Are there any questions or comments on this report? Mr. Dean.
I just want to bring my comments forward from the last discussion on the EBE report.
Thank you. Mr. Carter?
On item 13, I said addendum C, it's addendum B. I apologize.
Thank you. It'll be so noted.
Okay, are there any announcements to be brought before us this evening that do not require a legislative vote? Okay, we'll start with you, Ms. Falls. Go ahead, Ms. Falls.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I really do want to commend the administration and all the people, the staff people and board who are all working together on the Imagine PPS ideas, and commend the communities and the public who are working with, everyone's working together to benefit our children and to make sure that, you know, we hear the college, career, and life ready. I believe the whole process is life ready. So I'm just very, very excited to be part of this now, and I know that this is definitely going to be something that people will see us as modeled, to model after, because the great ideas are coming, and our children are going to be the ones to benefit, community, city, district, everyone. And also, I would again like to thank, at this time, at a time of a lot much trouble in our world, our military, past, present, and future, and keep them in our thoughts and prayers. Thank you, Ms. Wilson.
Thank you, Ms. Falls. Ms. Edwards.
I'd like to do a shout out for the schools that were named Title I Distinguished Schools. of which Pittsburgh, Westwood, Grandview, and Arsenal 6 to 8 received those awards at a celebration that was held at Sheridan Station Square just this past Monday. It was an honor to be there and an honor to receive distinguished awards. Also for Curtis Dean Walker, who's the executive director, who put on the food service, putting on the Ritz for including middle and high school students, because when we visit these buildings, they let us know how they feel about the food. And I don't know if it's too soon to say, but I also attended Pittsburgh Promise this morning, who held a press conference to announce a new partnership with Carlo, CCAC, and do we have one more? In the Pittsburgh Public Schools, where they're going to redesign a program to help some of our least performing schools, and RK Mellon, which is going to donate $3.9 million to that effort. I commend them for caring about our students, and I thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. First, I'd like to say everybody made it through the first semester. Today was the first day of classes for the second semester, so I'd like to remind all the students it's a clean slate. You're starting with, everyone has an A right now because we're all started with a clean slate, and we need to continue our good work. I know you're going to be anxious to see your report cards with your grades, and your parents are also going to be anxious, or guardians, but you know, it's a clean slate, and if we had some issues, let's do what we can now to make it a better semester. Also, I will say, you know, I think it was Ms. Wilson that said earlier, maybe it was Ms. Williams, about board members doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes and a lot of hours, and some of that is in this building, some of it's in other places in the district or representing the district, and some of it is out in the community, you know, such as Ms. Talaferro was giving input from the community. And it was very nicely timed. Last week I was at a meeting in the community, and one of the gentlemen asked the question of, he knew the answer, but he asked anyhow, how much do we get paid? And I said, 0. And he goes, that's what I thought. And he gave a really nice thank you for the service. And although it was me that was present, he really appreciates all of us. And I think that was extra special being Board Recognition Month. So it is nice that people in the community really recognize that we're doing this from our heart, and we're doing it not for the money, but because we want to make the district better for all our students and all our families, which includes staff. So we want to make it, we want to have a better district tomorrow, and we're all working hard. So I thought that was really nice, sitting there and listening to that. So thank you.
Hey, we get paid with special little thank you notes from early childhood children. And sometimes even plants and things like that. That's how we get paid. All right, is there anyone else before I say anything? Okay, then first, we hear a lot of discussion about professional development. We hear a lot about culturally responsive teaching and education. So it will be time now to say that Dr. Shiraki Hawley, who has worked in the Pittsburgh Public Schools in the past, was here yesterday doing professional development with a group of 10 schools actually, and he's committed to do several sessions with 10 schools to work on that, and he did a very good job. Of course, he always does. It's nothing surprising, but he gives a different way of looking at it. He makes sure that everybody is aware that we all have biases, and then we have to recognize those as we work with children. And it's everybody, you know, we want good professional development. People do complain when it's something that's not something they can't use in their classroom or something they've already known. So this is a positive thing that has occurred yesterday and will continue to occur with some of our students or teachers, and well, the kids will benefit from it. And on a sadder note, one of our former teachers, she was in the district. She's one of the, you know, we get sometimes teachers from business, And Terry Beal had taught, she worked in a bank for 25 years, and then she changed careers and came to the city of Pittsburgh Public Schools. Well, she's a graduate from Westinghouse, so she was always here. But, you know, a bulldog, always a bulldog. But she came and became a business education teacher, graduated from Westinghouse, went to Westinghouse and taught the students there. And she just passed away just last week. And I just wanted to make note of it. She was very well loved by the community. She grew up in Homewood. And it just would be remiss of me not to make note of that. And Mr. Udine, you're back, so your comments, please.
Yes, I wanted to join Ms. Edwards in congratulating the Pittsburgh Promise. And it reminds me of a really devastating report that we received recently on chronic absences and how they affect other performance of students in the school district. You can't learn if you're not there. And the program that the Promise is kicking off is designed to reduce absenteeism, especially chronic absenteeism throughout the school district. And I want to thank them for that. Also want to join the nation in sending our thoughts and prayers to Kobe Bryant and his family. The whole nation has been shaken by the untimely loss in such a terrible way with his daughter. And I just want to mention that and join the nation in that mourning. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Udine. Mr. Gallagher.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. I'd like to give a shout out to the Educational Partnership on the West End, located on Carlos Street. I volunteered down there on Thursday, and it's a tremendous resource for teachers. They give school supplies. We also have Pittsburgh Public School teachers volunteering there, and it's a tremendous group, and it's a real asset to our school district.
Thank you. Mr. Dean.
All right. I mentioned Kobe and Gigi, but there were other passengers on that helicopter, and we should not forget them in our thoughts and prayers as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, I don't think there's any additional announcements, so could I please have a motion and a second to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Kennedy, Ms. Teleferro, and this time Ms. Falls is the third. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, the motion is carried. Aye. This meeting is now adjourned.